refer people. I endorse people. And so when I call, I endorse you, and that means I'm standing behind what you wrote and who you are.
I also think that what also American business owners in general could do is exercise a little bit of patience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, transition is it's a hard thing going into an unknown. And I was listening to when you're telling about their resumes. It looked horrible. We have this thing about pride, that we want everything to be exact. We want it to be right. And when someone tells us, "Hey, this is not right," from us, most of the time, what we've done when we're not afforded the opportunity to do resumes, we take those OERs, those NCOERs, copy and paste it like that looks immaculate. But to her, it's like, what the hell is
Right.
this?
What did you do?
But this is also something that we should speak to is we all out process. And we don't do resumes in the military, so they help us take our experience in the military and put it in a resume that they give us and say, this is what you need to take to the civilian world to get a job. Well, why are we being pushed out into the civilian
They give
world
you that?
with
Oh, well,
that's
y'all
part of
should
the
ask
out
for a
processing.
refund. That's not right.
That's part of the out processing.
well,
is you go
that's
in
not
there.
Well, they
good.
have the TAPS process, which they're doing now. I was part of the TAPS process, but I didn't wait until TAPS to figure out what I wanted to do. I actually, being a captain, again, that's a different experience from an enlisted person, a junior enlisted person who hasn't had that experience of having to look for a job, put a resume, look at them from federal perspective. So when I went to TAPS, I already had a job. I left the military going into a GS-13 because I knew what those federal jobs, what those people
Yep.
were going to be looking for.
Wonderful.
So you have to prepare yourself. Those last 7 days that you're getting before you're getting out, it's not going to be enough to prepare you for the next level. So I just personally think if it's, again, the military is doing a good job, there needs to be something, again, on the civilian side of the house that can help them look at, and before they're presenting sending that resume out, they're doing another scrub on it to say, hey, let's change this word into that. Nobody knows what a 34 Bravo is. Just spell it out and those types of things. And there are little things that can go a long way to make a lot of difference. But I think some employers don't have that level of patience, or they just look at it, they don't understand it, even though they see it's military, and they just push it out. So I want to thank you for, taking that second look and saying, hey, this looks great, but it looks great to you, but I don't know as an employer what I'm looking at, and helping them to transfer it to make it understandable and make it marketable. So,
And I think transition is the key. We have to realize that for us, when we look for a candidate that's coming out of the military, we start a year before. We start early. We recruit while we're on the job. I mean, my own mentor was a military person. He is running one of my offices now. He was my mentor. I went out. He told me I was crazy to start my own business, but now he works for me. And the beautiful thing was I recruited him when he told me, you know what, I think I got about 18 more months of this and I really want to go. We start looking at him then. We start looking at our opportunity board, things that we wanted to position to, and we start feeding him things then to say, listen, we want this position to be built around you. How can we get you in it? And so we worked the resume. He did take work off. He did take a week or two off that whole 18 months and came and worked for us, paid, so he can see what it was like. So I think it has to be a give and take, and you're absolutely right about the patience, because if you've never worked with the military, and I've had the beauty of being around them all my career, so I understand that. But if you don't, you really will be, immediately dismissive, and it's not that they don't know. They have vast amount of knowledge and talent and abilities. It's just they have to be able to articulate.
I think right now, as the military forces people to take early retirement, and instead of giving them a pension, gives them a lump sum payout after 15 years. You're not talking about officers who have the luxury of taking time off to gauge what they want to do 18 months from now. You're talking about enlisted people. You're not talking about officers that are going to go into a government system and get themselves a GS job that also they can retire from. You're talking about potentially young single mothers who they're not going through TAPS and getting out with this sparkling resume. They're going through an enlistment system that gives them a resume that no recruiter would start them out with.
Well, but let me say, I think that has a little bit though to do with the young generation and entitlement, because I hire all, and I think the young generation comes with this sense of entitlement that's crazy to begin with anyway. So I mean, and I think it's so unrealistic. And I'm just going to say this quick story. I had a gentleman that approached me. I think I shared it with you. A gentleman that approached me that we wanted to hire, and he came out of one of these HBCUs, Morehouse, and we offered him an $82,000 job coming right out. He was a phenomenal person. Came and did some internships with us for 2 years, and we wanted him. The Navy wanted him. He declined it. He said, "I'm worth $125,000." I said, "Who told you that?" He goes, "My school told me that." I said, "Well, your school ain't paying this bill. And you have absolutely no work experience except for our internship." He goes, "But that's okay." But he was on LTC, and he came in, he said, "Well, I have these credentials, and somebody's going to pay me." We went to the next candidate and accepted him. 6 months later, the kid calls me back, and he goes, "Is that job still open?" I said, "No, sir." He goes, "Well, I just, needed to let you know that if you have any other opportunities, let me know." I said, "Well, where did you end up?" And he told me, he says, "I'm making $44,000 a year." Now, what I left out is that 3 weeks after we hired someone else, I got a call from his mother. And his mother cussed me from one end to the next about, "How did you know my son is worth X, Y, Z?" And she was military as well, and he's put in this, and that. And I said, "Well, you've done your son no justice if you fabricated his head with this nonsense. Because at the end of the day, I don't care if you're a veteran or if you're a civilian, your expectations need to be what they really are, which is real. I mean, and you got to have realistic expectations. You're competing. I mean, right now you're competing with a PhD for a same job. So
And I'm not disagreeing.
everybody has to come with some realistic expectations of what they're going to be able to come out of and go to. If you're not, if I was in the military as an enlisted person, which I worked around a lot of enlisted people, they did come in and get government jobs at 11, 12s, and 13s where I was at. They transitioned very easily out of that E5 to a 13, 14, 15. Some of them are SCSs too that I know now with Spa Wars. So, they had their mind right, and they also did their network.
But
so
that's
you
the
got to
key
own
is
some of your stuff.
Ownership.
You gotta
Because
own
the
it.
people who came and they transitioned into those jobs, I would assume that they had the same education and experience that made them competitive with people who had done nothing but the civilian track.
No.
No.
No, actually, they was their last tour of duty, and they performed their butts off. And when they performed their butts off, that commander actually on that base said, "I want you when you're retiring." And they pulled them. Some of them didn't have educations competing with the systems engineers that was sitting beside them. Now, they came out and went and got system engineering degrees, but they knew the work. At the end of the day, you got to know your environment and who's on the right and the left of you. You always got to know who you're competing with. That's how I stay in business. I know my competitors. And so you got to kind of know who your competitors are on both sides. You might not have it all, but if you can bring it better than the other person with a degree, then you bring it. And I will hire you over that other person in the degree any day of the week.
And I definitely agree with that. When you get into looking for employment, it is no longer a team sport. From military initiative, you get anything from exactly.
It's combat.
So among my group of captains, everyone had a master's degree, so I decided I was going to get two.
There you
Because
go.
that was one more degree than they had. I networked. I was doing everything when I knew I was going to get out a year, looking out, going to all these events, networking, letting people know my name, letting people know what I was worth. So I don't think it's just a matter of what the military is not teaching you. Young people, they need to take, like you said, some ownership and say, hey, what am I worth? And if this is not what I want to do, you can get education while you're in the military regardless of your rank structure. You can go to all types of other schools and take things that the GI Bill and other education forms will pay for. So you just can't say because they were this rank or they were here, they were there, that puts them at a disadvantage. You put yourself at a disadvantage.
right.
So I guess that's my question then. If we're speaking to American vets, and especially American vets that get out of the system and they end up working with a nonprofit like yours, where they are jobless and they are homeless, what are you seeing? Why? How does that happen to them versus someone like you or someone who gets a job in civil service?
why are they homeless and why are they jobless? Is that what
What
you're asking?
makes them? What separates them from people like you or
How did they get
myself?
there?
Or
Well,
yeah,
I
how
will
did
tell
they
you
get
that
there?
it's basically life happens. From a woman perspective, when you come back from Afghanistan and got in the military, you don't expect to get divorced. You don't expect to go things like domestic violence. You don't come back to a downward economy and you've lost your job. So there are things that happen that are out of control. The problem is not having support mechanisms and systems that help them or they can go to in their time of need. So it's a lack of that structure that's needed from, okay, now I'm to this place. Most of the systems that are supportive are for people that need things that are fixed. Oh, do you have a severe disability? Do you have a severe mental health issue? It's like, no, I just fallen on hard times, but I did serve my country honorably. Well, they don't see you as needing anything because you're in their mind able body. When I went to my situation, they sent me to the welfare office because I was a woman. It did not matter that I was a soldier. It did not matter how much I had served. And basically, in return, they offered me $320 in food stamps for me and my son to live off of. And so the issue is a lack of support that's needed on the American side. I can't live off of $300 a month for me and my kid to eat off of and live and get apartments and things like that. So I think America needs to be more realistic about what the needs of veterans actually are. My supervisor still has, when I'm wearing dresses, Jazz, close your legs. Jazz, close your legs. So I wear pants for 13 years, so even coming up here, I'm looking to make sure this has something in front of it, because I know, or I'll put a folder in my lap, so
Right.
the folder falls, I know my legs are open
Right.
too wide, but those are things that maybe normal women would have to think about, because you may cross your legs and things, but I still sit like a boy. So lucky my supervisor was military. She used to be a drill sergeant. She's like, Jazz, close your legs, close your legs. So
That's
those
good.
are things that, to me, I have to constantly, remind myself, you have on a dress, you have on a skirt, make sure your legs are closed, but those types of things that, you probably wouldn't think about every day. And also for the women that come in our program, we do ensure that they have business clothing. They have, organizations like Suited for Change or Just for Success that we have a relationship with to help them, show them how to, make, 5 outfits out of 2 and things like that. But yeah, you're right. A lot of things we don't think about, those type of things. Luckily, I happen to be married to a closet manscaper who's my husband. And so he helps me get dressed and picks out things because he's been in the federal ward a lot longer than I have. But, those things that many people may not think about, it's actually hard for us, coming out, wondering, do I look okay? Do I fit in? Do people notice I'm not wearing pantyhose and things like that? So I totally get it.
I want to thank each of you for bringing your unique perspectives to the table. And one of the reasons originally, and if you read in the inside of your program, why Ladies America was even doing this was originally just to generate dialogue, because I knew I wasn't hearing enough. And I thought, if we have reach and we have a network and there's something missing. I worked on the Hill, I worked for the chairman of House Armed Services, my family served, my grandfather, my father, my brother, and I just wasn't hearing anything outside of sexual abuse, rape, and PTSD about what was going on with women in the military. So this was really to generate dialogue, and that's how it started. And you'll see it's actually brought us into, we're going to be enveloping it into a program on entering the workforce, and we're going to bring the female veterans into that program and returning mothers. So with that, I want to say thank you. And one of the other things with the work that we do, we don't like to just, I call it the chicken coop theory. A lot of you have heard this before. I don't like for us all to get together and pat each other on the back and this was a great day. It's not worth it to me. I want to see action, which is why I was asking, what can we do as individuals? And I think my takeaway from this is, let's go beyond thank you. And all of us know a veteran, and sit down with them, as Twyla mentioned, Jasmine, Stephanie, sit down with them, go over their resumes, do mock interviews with them. Let's get them some of these basic skills, which is what we're going to try to do as a women's organization. But I really think if there's an actionable item here today, go beyond the thank you. Yes? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I don't want to catch anyone off guard, but we do have a representative from Joining Forces at the White House, Tanya Bradshaw, who has joined us today, and she does obviously work in this area, and I would love to have her come up and share some remarks.
You're at the table.
Good morning. I'm Tanya Bradshaw. I just retired in September from 20 years in the Army. And I was fortunate enough to start my transitioning to wearing the civilian clothes while I was on the national security staff. And I was graded by my coworkers who were from State Department. And I would come in and I would go, is this okay? Is this okay? And they're like, okay, but the shoes, you really need to get some taupe shoes. And so I completely understand. And I would literally spend my morning when I first got assigned to an NSS, because I came from the Pentagon. So I was able to wear the uniform and just show up to work. I did that for 18 years. And then my 19th year, I'm sitting at the national security staff over at the White House, and I have to wear civilian clothes. And I would go for a run in the morning. Before then, I used to run 5 miles. I go for a run with the panic attack of, what am I going to wear? How am I going to put this together? Oh my gosh, did I wear that last Tuesday and it's Tuesday again? Is that okay? And so what I did is I went to Dress Barn. Sorry, I probably shouldn't say names, but I went there and I went for the Jones line because it all matched. And I picked stuff up because I figured, and I assembled it like it was a uniform. And I kind of rotated it that way, and that's how I started. And then my lovely coworkers were like, well, Tanya, we should really transition off of all the polyester. I'm like, oh, okay, we can work that. So I completely understand how hard it is to come into a civilian environment, and I'm really grateful for everyone and the board members to talk about this transition and what a challenge it is, and for those of us that are going through it, and those of us that are in the midst of starting it, and for those that are supporting us along the way, thank you so much. And thank you so much for this opportunity to be here, but just bringing everyone together for this important conversation. Because what we find with our female veterans is we don't join, right? When you look at the veteran service organizations, right, they're starting to pull us in, but when you look at we're 14% on active duty, we're not that representation when it comes to veteran service organizations. I just found a really small VSO for women last week, and I've been working at this for a year. So it's really interesting to see where we need to kind of come together, and we need to figure out how to do that. How do we come together so that our voices collectively are heard? And we either influence the VSOs that are already out there or the organizations that are already out there as a VSO, but we need to figure out a way to have our voices heard and to be part of that agenda. And if we're not going to do that, it's going to be more and more challenging because, as we know, military is drawing down, we're going to have more of us out there, and we need to make sure that we pave the way for the future the way it was paved for us, because I didn't get here because of just Tanya. It was somebody who helped me along the way, and I plan to do the same with the transitioning female veterans, as well as any veteran, but also the focus on our female veterans, because I think we have sometimes a little harder of an opportunity of transitioning because we're mom, we're wife, we're daughter, right? And so we let all those other roles, and then we forget sometimes we're veterans and what we've gone through and what we've done, and we need to go back and remember that so that we can go, what's the core to this, right? Because sometimes it has nothing to do with what's on the table. It has to do with something else, and we just have to be able to remember that, and also take the opportunity for those of us that are my sisters and all of this to, if you need it, go talk to someone, right? Because we have to take those opportunities. We can't be shy away from it. The men are stepping up to the plate and saying, Sergeant Ty Carter was phenomenal, a Medal of Honor recipient, came through and said, hey, the reason I'm here today is because someone reached out and took care of me. We need to do the same for each other. We need to do the same for ourselves, because we can't take care of anybody if we don't take care of ourselves as well. So thank you. A couple of things. I just wanted to go over what the president said on Veterans Day in case you missed it. It was phenomenal. I don't know if you guys know who Mr. Overton is. 107-year-old World War II vet, came in from Austin, Texas. Truly one of my best Veterans Day ever. It was great. But on that same day, the president said that he will make sure that veterans are providing unprecedented support, and that as we make the difficult fiscal choices, as we all know, that are coming as a nation, that we're going to keep making the vital investments to our veterans, and we're going to keep improving veterans' health care, including mental health care, so that we can continue to be strong, and that we're making sure that the veterans not covered by the VA can also secure quality, affordable health insurance. And so it's important, as you saw over the news over the weekend, for those that are not getting their care through VA, the ACA, and if you don't have employer's insurance, the ACA is an option for you. I highly encourage you to take a look at it, take a look at the website. We had some hiccups, but I can tell you that we're definitely moving in the right direction. Things are going very well, but also that we're working on keeping the reduction for the backlog. We're below 400,000, which is a huge increase from where we were just a year ago. We've slashed it from a third since March, and we're going to keep going after it and keep getting those numbers down. We work with the VA pretty much weekly on making sure that we're on track to do that, as well as our old claims, the 2-year-old claims, the 1-year-old claims, as well as working on the current backlog. So we're always pushing to move those in the right directions. And it's going. I mean, it's not perfect, but we're getting there. And every day you have some dedicated people, and a lot of folks that work at the VA happen to also be veterans, but they're moving it in the right direction. We also have the 9/11 GI Bill. We just had the 1 millionth recipient this month as well. So November's been a really huge month for us. For those of you that have it, make sure you use it. It's what it's there for. You know, it just shouldn't sit. You should definitely take those opportunities. And also, we're going to continue to demand the rights for those who are disabled, and pushing for the Disabilities Treaty, which is going to be coming up very soon. That basically, it's a disabilities treaty, we're looking for it to be ratified so that we can help enforce other countries. So when our disabled vets are traveling overseas, that they have the same access to ramps, they have the same access to easements, they have the same access to elevators that our veterans have back here. Because a lot of them want to go compete in other countries, they want to study in other countries, and this disabilities treaty is a step in the right direction for us to be able to do that. And so wrapping up also with joining forces, the First Lady and Dr. Biden, I actually, and I'm sorry because I should have fixed this earlier, I actually work for the Office of Public Engagement. I work for Valerie Jarrett. I work for the President. Joining forces is actually run by Rich Morales. I do work an awful lot with them because obviously the job hiring piece of it, we're working a lot with that as well. So, but Rich Morales is the current director. He's our first Army one. We had 2 Navy previously. So I'm very excited about that. But Dr. Biden and the First Lady are working very hard on job initiatives and making sure that we have companies that come out and they're pushing companies to make sure that we're hiring our veterans. And any feedback, if we're not seeing that, or if there's things that we need to do, the conversation on resumes is very important. And I definitely think we need to take a look at that as a way, as a tool for us to assist with those. So thank you. And overall, this is just amazing. So I really appreciate your time and a few minutes to come up. So thank you so much. My pleasure. I'm stealing your phone.
They all look the same. I want to take a moment to also thank some of the sponsors here today. As I mentioned, in case you don't know, Ladies America is a national network of professional women. We were founded here in D.C. It started with six women, one of whom I'm one. And there's another one here in the room. She actually now leads our New York chapter. And it's now a network of over 3,000 women across 10 cities, with the 11th just around the corner. So it is continuing to grow and has been beyond, I think, all of our wildest imagination. But there's something real and raw and grassroots about what we've been doing that has us all connected in a profound way. But the way that this has continued to grow is because of the support of so many. And so today I would like to thank NetApp, who has done some work with the White House in the area of technology, Regina Kunkel and her team for sponsoring us today. And as I mentioned, PepsiCo, and I'm not sure if anyone from Pepsi was able to come, but they had to travel today. We also had the Pat Tillman Foundation ended up becoming a partner on this event, which was phenomenal. I can't begin to tell you how the planning of this event, this simple luncheon, really the reach across the country was very significant. And every day I was on a different call with someone. I had no idea I would ever even be talking about military issues and where females fit into that. And it's just, their support has been amazing. They're going to continue to work with us on developing our program, and resumes will obviously be a piece of that. Obviously, Jasmine and her organization, she's a founder also of Mrs. or Ms. Veterans America, as well as her work with Final Salute. And I could never thank you enough for your constant, unwavering support of us. And I failed her on something this year, and she still stepped up to the plate and was really amazing. So, quality with a capital Q. IFRED, you might see in your bags, is an organization that works on, it's an anti-depression. They don't even like to use that language. And they're really trying to put a positive light on depression so that people don't feel ashamed to seek help, especially our military personnel, our veterans who are coming out. They go home. It's embarrassing the way we currently talk about depression to say you're depressed, because in our world these days, if you seem depressed, everyone looks at you like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and keep going, put on a happy face. But sometimes there's real work that needs to be done, and they've done a phenomenal job in really spreading that. So you'll find some information on that as well. I would like to thank Jasmine and Sonia McKay Gavinkar for their work on the selection committee for today as well. As I mentioned, she is one of CNN's 2013 Heroes this year, and such an honor. She was also, how did I miss this? She was also just inducted into the Virginia Women's Hall of Fame? First Lady Hall of Fame, which was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So. Also, Lily Harris with MSA Incorporated. She has become a sponsor for this event, but she also has donated office space to our organization. So we have an office downtown, which again, it's a pinch me moment when these things happen. And so thank you so much, and thank you for being here today. GDS Group, which is based in Virginia Beach. We have two representatives from our Virginia Beach group, Julie and Jessica. I just met her in person today. So thank you for making the drive here, and the GPS Group is based there, and that's how we actually know them. Ariel with Relevant Events. She has donated her time and kind sponsorship, and this is her new business. And so we really do want to support young women in their businesses, and this was an opportunity for us to work together. And I will tell you, in the final days, I am short and snappy, and I won't even answer questions. So I'm sorry, but thank you, and this has been wonderful. And thank you, Twyla, not only for being here, and you're going to see her on panels all the time, and she was so good, and I keep bringing her back, and everyone's going to think I don't know anyone else, but she's so good. And she also is our first new board of director, member of our board of directors. We are now rebuilding different boards. We have an advisory board and a national committee. And I've just started the work on building the board of directors. And Twyla is the first person that I asked, and she was the first person to accept. So we're 1 for 1. Thank you, Tanya, for being here. I tell everybody, I've been sending the Council on Women and Girls at the White House our materials for 2 years. It's very stalker-esque. And I got really brave and decided, you know what, I think they should be at this event. And I just decided, I'll send them another email. But you don't want to be that person. So I did, and it was during the shutdown. So I got an auto reply, and I was like, no, that email just went into a black hole of emails they're never going to read. And a week later, it was Friday night at 6:38 p.m., literally, that I got an email from Haley at the Council on Women and Girls, and she had been following our work and was very supportive of what we're doing, and said that this was a great event, and she is how we ultimately had Tanya here today. So thank you again. Am I missing anyone? I do want to have all of our nominees please just rise so that we can thank you. Actually, all of our veterans, if you could, in the room, I would like to give us an opportunity to pay tribute to you and to thank you. And I just said go beyond thank you, but today, thank you so much.